She is counting her breaths. Not because she is afraid. She's been counting her breaths for 91 winters, and the habit has become something closer to prayer than to fear. Each exhale in this darkness rises as a small white cloud and vanishes, and she watches it go the way you might watch a candle flame. Not with dread, but with a kind of sober attention. Minus 75 degrees Celsius. The kind of cold that does not arrive so much as descend. Slow and total, like a verdict. The fire inside the small shelter is the size of a book. It has been the size of a book for 3 hours now, and Saayana Ivanova Burnasheva, widow, nomad, last permanent resident of the upper Suntar Valley, has not moved from where she kneels beside it. She feeds it a sliver of larch at a time. The wood is nearly gone. She knows this the way she knows most things about her situation tonight, completely and without panic. Behind her, in the far corner of the shelter where the felt blankets are stacked, something breathes, something small and warm and white, pressed against the wall of packed snow and timber like a child hiding from thunder. Boria, the sheep. 7 years old, female, the last of a flock that once numbered 14. She did not belong inside the shelter by any practical measure. The shelter is barely large enough for Saayana herself. But the temperature dropped without warning just before dusk, and Boria had gone still in a way that Saayana recognized. Not cold yet, but close to it, and so she brought her in. This is the first timeline we are following tonight. A woman, a fire, a sheep. And outside, at a temperature that can kill an unprotected person in under 11 minutes, a darkness that is not empty. The second timeline is older. It lives inside Saayana's memory, the way coals live inside ash. Present, patient, warm only if you know where to look. It began 53 years ago. The first winter she and her husband Arkady spent alone in this valley after his family moved south. She had been 38 then. He had told her, the night the temperature first dropped below minus 60, that the cold was something you learn to read the way you read a river. Every season slightly different, never fully the same.
Arkady said, "The cold has moods." He was right. Tonight it is not in a forgiving mood.
She says this to no one. Or perhaps to Boria, whose breath comes and goes in a slow, visible rhythm against the back wall. The animal does not respond, but her ears shift. A small movement that Saayana notices and, in her private way, is grateful for.
The footsteps outside are not hers. Chapter 2. What travels in the dark? She first heard them 20 minutes ago, or what she calculates to be 20 minutes, since her watch stopped working at minus 62 during last month's cold snap, and she has not replaced it. The sound was so brief she almost filed it away as wind trick. The tundra has 1,000 voices, and not all of them mean anything. But this one, she heard twice, then a third time, and now it is constant. Wolves in Yakutia are not the wolves of fairy tales. They are larger, quieter, and possessed of a patience that seems almost geological, as if they understand that in this environment, time is the cheapest resource available. A pack operating at minus 75 will not waste energy on a chase. They wait. They learn the geometry of a shelter, the pattern of a light, the schedule of a fire. They have been learning Saayana's shelter for at least 6 days. She knows this because she has found tracks each morning at increasing distances from the entrance, a slow, spiraling inward, methodical as a calculation. She has not told her granddaughter Yuliana about the tracks. Yuliana is 27, studying civil engineering in Yakutsk, 800 kilometers south. She calls every Sunday. Last Sunday, 3 days ago, she asked whether Saayana needed anything from the city.
Babushka, I can get someone to bring you kerosene, or more larch. Please just tell me what you need.
I need the snow to stop blowing sideways, and for the river ice to hold another month. Can you get me those?
You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I am fine, child. The sheep is fine. The fire is burning.
This was true when she said it. It remains technically true now. The fire is burning, though barely. What she did not say, and what Yuliana did not ask because she has learned that some silences are load-bearing, was that the wolf pack had returned after a 2-week absence. That they were now 5, where before they had been 3. That the largest one, a gray and black male she has mentally named Bolshoi, the big one, had stood at the tree line for 40 minutes that morning without moving, watching the shelter with the particular attention of an animal revising a plan.
In the parallel thread of memory running alongside this night, there is a winter from 22 years ago. Arkady was still alive then, just barely, his lungs giving out slowly the way a well goes dry. Not all at once, but by degrees you convince yourself you can manage. That winter, a single wolf had come to the edge of their camp and taken one sheep cleanly, before dawn, without a sound from the flock. Arkady had stood at the door with a rifle he could barely lift, and watched the wolf carry the animal away, and Saayana had stood beside him and put her hand on his arm, not to stop him, but because she knew the shot would cost him more than they could afford. The rifle never fired. He died the following April. She has fired the rifle many times since. The sound outside changes now. It shifts from the irregular pattern of movement to something steadier, more deliberate. She knows this sound. It is the sound of a pack that has stopped scouting and begun to settle into position. Chapter 3. The Geometry of Waiting. The blizzard came without announcement, the way most truly dangerous things arrive. One moment, the night had the brittle clarity of deep cold, stars visible at the horizon's edge, the valley in a silence so complete you could hear your own blood. And then the wind came from the north, and the clarity ended. Now the shelter shudders in periodic gusts, and the fire shrinks each time the air pressure shifts, and Saayana must decide several things at once. The first decision has already been made. She will not leave the shelter tonight. At -75 with wind, exposed skin loses sensation in under 90 seconds. She knows the distances and timings of this valley, the way a musician knows a composition. Not by reading, but by long practice. And she knows that the nearest alternate shelter, a stone cache her husband built in 1971, is 400 meters east, which is 400 meters into wind that is currently making the larch trees at the edge of the clearing audible. A low, sustained creak, like the sound of something enormous being audible. The second decision is harder. The fire will last perhaps another 40 minutes at its current rate of consumption. She has been rationing the wood since midnight. She has 4 pieces remaining, each roughly the length of her forearm. Which is, she notes with the detached arithmetic of someone who has long since made peace with her body's limits, somewhat shorter than it used to be.
4 pieces, 40 minutes each, if I am careful. 2.5 hours.
She says the numbers aloud because saying them aloud is how she holds them still. She has done this her whole life, named things, spoken them into the cold air to make them solid. Her mother taught her this. Her mother, who outlived a husband and 2 sons in a famine and 4 Soviet collectivization officers who arrived in her valley in 1954 with paperwork and left without it, died at 93 and was still counting her wood out loud. Outside, one of the wolves makes a sound. Not a howl. That is the sound of distance and communication, and something almost musical. This is different. This is the sound a wolf makes when it is very close and no longer interested in distance. A low, compressed exhalation. Almost like a cough. Gloria lifts her head. Saayana turns from the fire and looks at the sheep for a long moment. Boria's eyes catch the firelight. 2 small amber discs in the dark, very still, very attentive. Animals in danger do not perform fear the way humans do. They simply become entirely present, every process in their body redirected toward the single most relevant fact. Saayana has always respected this about animals. There is an honesty in it. A clarity. She remembers Arkady telling her once that a man in fear becomes theatrical, but an animal in fear becomes absolutely itself. She thought he was talking about the reindeer they had been watching that evening, moving ahead of a storm. She suspects now he was also talking about himself. She picks up the rifle. Hey! Chapter 4. A woman of this valley. She does not open the door yet. She stands facing it, the rifle held with the easy familiarity of a woman who has carried one longer than most people carry anything. It is a Soviet-era hunting rifle, a Baikal IG-20, single-shot, built in 1978. The same year her youngest son was born, a fact she has always found either coincidental or cosmically pointed, depending on her mood. She has maintained it herself for 46 years. It has never failed her. through the wall of the shelter, timber overpacked sod with felt insulation her mother brought from 3 valleys west in the 1960s. She can hear the pack now as separate entities. This is significant. When wolves operate as a single sound, they are still deciding. When you can hear them individually, they have decided. She counts them by ear. The way a conductor counts an orchestra, not by searching, but by simply listening with the part of the brain that has been trained to receive. One near the east wall, one at the door, one to the northwest, slightly farther, the scout, and then the 2 she cannot quite place yet, somewhere between the shelter and the tree line, which means they are covering retreat. A pack covering retreat is a pack expecting to advance.
5 of you, 1 of me.
She has survived 91 winters. She will not lose this one. And the memory running parallel to this moment, she is 38, and standing outside a different shelter on a different night, and Arcadia is beside her, and he is pointing at a constellation she still cannot name. He is explaining that it looks different from this latitude than from anywhere else on Earth, and she is half listening and half watching the horizon for the weather she can smell building in the west. This is the texture of their marriage as she remembers it. Him pointing at something distant and beautiful, her watching for something near and dangerous, and both of them completely correct. She has been watching for something near and dangerous every night since 1997, when he died, and she simply did not stop. Some habits, once formed, have the character of vocation. She puts her hand on the door. The wood is so cold that even through her layered gloves, wool inner, reindeer leather outer, each glove repaired at least 8 times over the years, she can feel the temperature as a kind of pressure. The door pushes outward. She will open it against wind that has been measured elsewhere in Yakutia this winter at 60 kilometers per hour, though she has no instruments and no need of them. She knows what 60 kilometers per hour feels like at minus 75. She knows what most things feel like. Behind her, Boria makes a single soft sound. Not distress, not a bleat, something small of an either. The kind of sound an animal makes when it recognizes that the person beside it is the entire world right now, and is simply acknowledging the fact.
I hear you. Stay.
She opens the door. Whoa! Chapter 5. The Silence Before. The cold hits like a wall being moved. In the half second between the door opening and her body adjusting, she can feel her exposed cheekbones. The only skin she has not covered, since she needs clear vision. Begin their rapid renegotiation with the temperature. In her experience, minus 75 has a particular quality distinct from the gradations above and below it. It feels specific. Personal. Like something directed at you in particular. She sees them immediately. The firelight spilling through the open door reaches perhaps 3 meters into the blizzard. A thin orange gesture against the white, and in that light, at the outer edge where clarity becomes darkness, she can see 2 sets of eyes. Low, pale, level. The others she can hear but not see. Bolshoi is one of the visible pair. She knows him by size, even in poor light. He is perhaps 40 kilograms, which in this latitude, at this point in winter, means he is also hungry. And hunger in Yakutia's largest wolf subspecies does not translate to recklessness, so much as to a sharpened cost-benefit calculation. He is looking at her with the direct attention that characterizes all truly dangerous things. No performance, no threat display, simply the full weight of his attention. Now the narration stops. 8 seconds of this. The wind. The fire behind her. The breath of the sheep somewhere in the shelter's dark interior. The eyes of the wolf at the edge of the light. The cold that by now has found the narrow gap between her collar and her left ear. All of it happening at once. All of it utterly silent beneath the blizzard's white noise. And Saayana Ivanova Burnasheva, standing in the doorway of the shelter she has lived in for half a century, rifle in her frostbitten hands, 91 years of endurance in her body, deciding. I have spent considerable time trying to understand what crosses a person's mind in a moment like this. Not in theory, but in practice. The specific, granular calculus that happens beneath conscious thought when a 91-year-old widow who weighs perhaps 48 kilograms stands alone at minus 75 degrees with wolves at a distance of 3 meters. What I have concluded from everything I know about Saayana and about the women like her who have survived in this valley across generations is that the calculus is simpler than outsiders expect. It is not about courage. Courage implies uncertainty about outcome, and she has moved beyond uncertainty. It is not about sacrifice. Sacrifice implies a cost, and to her this is not a cost. It is about the single thread of loyalty that runs from who she was at 38, standing beside Arkady, counting the sheep against the dark, to who she is now. A woman to whom devotion is not a virtue to be exercised on special occasions, but the simple operating principle of every day. She is here because Boria needs her to be here. The reasoning begins and ends there. She fires the rifle into the air. Chapter 6. What the cold cannot take. The sound of a rifle shot at -75 travels differently than it does in temperate air. It is sharper, more compact, as if the cold has compressed it, and it carries across frozen ground with a directness that seems almost architectural. Across the valley, something in the tree line shifts. The scout wolf, the one she had placed northwest, moves. She can hear it in the creak of snow under weight. Bolshoi does not move immediately. This is the thing about him that both concerns and respects her. He does not startle, does not default to flight, takes the new information and processes it with the same unhurried attention he gives everything. 3 seconds pass. 4. Then, in a movement so fluid it barely registers as decision, he steps back, 1 pace, then another. The second set of eyes at the light's edge vanishes. From the east wall she hears the wolf there pull away, its footsteps receding in the snow with the quick efficiency of an animal that has made a clean calculation. She stands in the doorway until she can no longer hear them. This takes 6 minutes. She counts the seconds in the way her mother taught her, not with impatience, but with the focused attention of someone who understands that a count is a form of respect for what is being counted. The pack does not leave the valley. She knows this. They are at the tree line, 200 meters east, reassessing. This is not a victory, it is a negotiation, and the terms of the negotiation will be reviewed again tomorrow night, and the night after. She has bought time. Time is what she has always bought, from one winter to the next. She closes the door. The shelter returns to the small world of fire and breath. Boria is standing now, not in alarm, but in the alert posture of an animal whose immediate situation has improved and who has noticed. Saayana sets the rifle against the wall and crosses to her and puts both hands on the animal's back, pressing warmth in both directions. This is the moment where both timelines converge. The parallel thread of memory, Arkady pointing at distant stars, the long accumulation of winters survived and animals tended and nights endured, arrives at this moment, this shelter, this woman's hands on this animal's back, and settles. The past does not disappear into the present, it accumulates inside it. Every winter she has survived is in this shelter tonight. Her mother's winters are here, her grandmother's winters. The winters of every woman in this valley who learned the cold's moods and moved through them anyway. She adds 2 more pieces of larch to the fire. The flames rise, double in size, and for a moment the shelter is almost warm. Warm by the standards of a different life, warm enough to feel like a kind of grace. In this light she can see Boria's eyes clearly, dark, calm, attending to her with the unguarded directness that animals reserve for the specific person they have decided to trust. She will stay awake until dawn. Dawn is approximately 4 hours away. She does this calculation the way she does all calculations, directly, without complaint, without weighing it against some alternative version of her life in which this kind of night does not happen. This is the life. These are its parameters. She has always found, on balance, that it contains more warmth than cold. Not meteorologically, but in the ways that matter for sustaining a person across 91 years.
Babushka, please tell me what you need.
What I need you cannot put in a truck and drive 800 kilometers.
What does that mean?
It means I already have it.
In the morning, when the blizzard has thinned to a pewter haze and the temperature has climbed slightly to -68, she will go outside and read the tracks in the new snow. She will count 5 sets circling the shelter, the geometry of the night's negotiation written in white powder like a text. She will follow Bolshoi's tracks to the point where he stood in the light of her open door, and she will stand in the same place and look back at the shelter and try to understand what he saw. She will see a door, a light, a woman who did not close either. She will put her hand briefly on the snow where he stood, and she will feel the temperature of a print left by something that is alive and moving, and not finished with this valley, and neither is she. Then she will go back inside. The sheep will be there. The fire will need feeding. The wood will need rationing. Outside, the cold will be exactly what it is, -68, working its way towards something colder by nightfall. There are some bonds the cold cannot evaluate. It can measure the temperature of flesh, the speed of frostbite, the number of minutes before a fire dies. It cannot measure the reason a woman with frostbitten fingers and a rifle that has been repaired 14 times stands in an open doorway at -75 degrees and does not step back. Devotion generates its own heat, and that In this valley, in this dark, in this body that has endured 91 winters, without once deciding they were not worth enduring, is enough. What the cold cannot take from you, it cannot use against you.